Welcome to episode number 6, I believe, of the New York State Halls of Fame podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Jeff Cohen, along with Leonard Averman, and the director of the New York State's Baseball Hall of Fame, Rennie LaRue. Today's guest comes from baseball royalty. Larry Berra is the eldest son of Hall of Famer Yogi Berra, a 10-time World Series champion, Yankees legend, and one of the most respected figures in the game has ever known. Larry grew up inside the clubhouse culture of championship baseball, surrounded by some of the greatest players and managers in the history of the sport. He brings firsthand view of what it really meant to be part of the Yankees dynasty, which cameras didn't catch, what the box scores can't show, and what made those teams special beyond wins. From life lessons passed down by one of the greatest catchers to preserving a legacy rooted in humility, toughness, and respect for the game, this is a conversation for true baseball fans. We are honored to welcome Larry Berra. Welcome, Larry.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
Larry.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Larry, this is Rennie. Thank you so much for being on our show. It's an honor to have you on. And my first question may seem odd, but did your dad know how great he was?
That's a tough question because if he did, he never told us. He was as portrayed in everything that's come out after his passing. He's very humble. His big thing was one day he actually asked me, I don't understand why everybody gets so excited about seeing me. And I just told him, I said, Dad, if I had that answer, I'd be able to help a lot of people out. But you are just an amazing person. I mean, he was the only man that I ever saw. All he had to do was wave at somebody or say hello and it made the person's day, life, year. People tell me stories that they just waved to him. They waved and then they had it in there for 50 years. That their first game was I played this senior softball, so I meet a lot of guys in my age that saw Dad play and older that saw Dad played in their first recollections. And it's amazing how many Yogi Berra fans there were. Actually, the biggest one naturally was Mickey. And you got to get into the 80-year-olds. You got to get to the guys that are 80 and over before you get to Yogi Berra. And I had one guy I played against in his first game. He was in the right field stands in the upper deck in foul territory, and he caught a foul ball hit by my father in the third deck. And I said, really? And it's the first game his grandfather took him to the game. So, but he never let on how good he was. He just played the game.
Larry, he was. I mean, not many. Not many people have their own museum, and so right then and there, we know how great he was, how beloved he was. Again, we met you several years ago. You were at the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame dinner. You weren't there for any other reason than you were attending. You were wearing a tie with your dad's number on it. And I said to Jeff, I said, I got to meet that guy. I think I know who that something with Yogi. I mean, it was Larry Berra, his son. Then we got the tour of the museum. Let's talk about the museum. I know that's jumping ahead a lot, but tell us about the Yogi Berra Museum and how it started and where it is right now.
Well, it's the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center is on the campus of Montclair State University in Montclair, Little Falls, New Jersey, and it was opened in 1998, and the idea came, I guess it was about 1995. A group of people called the Friends of Yogi Berra approached my father and mother about building a museum in his honor. And naturally, my father, being the way he says, I thought you had to be dead to get a museum. I didn't know they built them for people that are alive. So they thought about it, and the people, to get them to push it further, they said, "We'll raise the money, we'll build it. You don't have to do anything. We just want to build it in your honor." And and as would be it, they built it, and it ended up being his second home. He would be there, spend as much time as he could at this museum. He loved it. He loved talking baseball with the people and seeing the kids, especially, and the programs. And it's over the years, it opened up basically as a baseball museum, and seeing Dad when he was around, and then as it's progressed, it's got to be like a learning center. They teach elementary kids. They teach them baseball using for mathematics, science, sportsmanship, inclusion, how to play the game, and to be a regular person, and in the likeness of Dad, and just to try to be a human being like Dad was.
It's a wonderful place. I remember when you first took us on tour. There's a picture when you come in. It's on the left, and it shows Yogi batting right-handed. And you explained that he's actually born right-handed, and the only reason why he switched left-handed because of the configuration of the field he was playing on.
No, his brothers changed him.
Oh, his brothers changed him. Okay.
Brothers changed his two brothers when he was like 9 or 10 years old. Said, "Let's try batting left-handed," and he went to left-handed because he does everything else right-handed. He played golf right-handed. He bowled right, even writes everything, but he batted left-handed. And he even tried playing golf left-handed, and it didn't work out too well. So he always carried a left-handed club in his golf bag, so he never had an unplayable lie. He could always hit a ball.
Ready?
Larry, did your dad, was he friends with Thurman Munson? Did he have any remembrances of him, or what was his opinion of Thurman?
Great catcher. It was we weren't there, that long with him. I got to know him pretty well because I'm a big plane nut, and I talked to him one day about his plane, and he actually, I felt bad because he actually showed me one day the picture of his plane being painted. Unfortunately, the one that he was killed in. It was going to be painted in Yankee pinstripes, and he was looking for the tail number NY15. And I believe his family was in negotiation with a person that had that number already. He was trying to get it for his tail fin. And he was terrific. Hard-nosed, great player, which was, Dad, he got dirty like my father did. But Dad was friendly with everybody. He basically didn't have, I don't think he had any enemies in the game of baseball. He loved everybody.
Yeah, he was. You told
How
us.
about Mickey? Sorry. Were they close?
Mickey? Is that you said, Mantle?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That whole era, that's the era I grew up in. My brother Tim and I, Dale was a Met, and Dale grew up in the Met era, and Timmy and I were, and Timmy was probably one of Mickey's biggest fans. And I'm 2 years older than Tim, so I can remember back even further, like when Bob Serv and the rest of them were still playing, and Joe DiMaggio, and they were just one big family. If you could, and we were friends with everybody. I still talk to David every now and then, and Danny, and I talk to Whitey Ford's son. I talk to Billy Martin's son occasionally. Gil Hodges Jr. I even talk to on a pretty regular basis.
Larry, your father is one of those rare individuals that has one name, Yogi, right? I mean, there's, other celebrities that you'll say, Madonna, Cher, there are certain people, they don't need to have two names, Yogi. But it didn't start out that way. I mean, let's go back to the beginning of his career when he was almost picked. He was offered $250 to play for was it the Who wanted him for $250? It was the Dodgers.
No, the Cardinals.
The Cardinals, right? Branch Rickey,
St.
right?
Right.
Offered him 250, but Joe Garagiola got 500, and he wanted $500.
Right. And the reason that happened was Branch Rickey at that time. This was Branch Rickey's last year as the general manager or the person with the St. Louis Cardinals. He was going to be the general manager with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And he said, Dad said the story was that he didn't offer him the $500 because he wanted to save Dad and get him to be a Dodger. Because that winter, after he signed, or that summer, he signed with the Yankees with Lou Hoffman. And in that winter, he got a phone call from the Brooklyn Dodgers saying they wanted him to come to West Point to go to spring training. And he said he'd already signed with the Yankees. So it just cost Branch Rickey $250.
Wow.
But Stan Musial always said that for $250, we could have had you and me in the same lineup, and we might have won all those World Series, and not you guys.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. He could have, or he could have been with the Dodgers. It's just amazing. $250 changed.
Yep.
Baseball history. I mean, it's unbelievable what could have been. So thankfully, history played out the way it did. But it for us now to think $250, but back then that was a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, at that time, yes. But the other thing too was, I mean, I guess could have been his stature being so short and the way he looked. He didn't. But a lot of people don't realize the athlete that he was. Joe Garagiola would tell us stories about that whenever they had any games like the athletic clubs when he was with the Stags in St. Louis and they played the other athletic clubs in the area, the first guy picked was Dad. A lot of people don't realize that my father loved soccer. He played soccer in St. Louis when he was a kid, and I think it was 1950. The United States beat England for the first time. They beat an international team. They beat England 1-0 in a World Cup game. 5 of the guys on that team played soccer with my father.
Wow. Could you talk about the friendship between your dad and Joe Garagiola, because they grew up on the same block, and this friendship lasted 90 years? It's unbelievable.
Man, they were in the same baby carriage.
Wow.
They were only 5 months apart.
Mm-hmm.
And when Dad passed away, we called from the room and we talked to him, and he was crying. We told him it's okay. He's in a better place. And he goes, "No, you don't understand. How many people can say they've known somebody for 90 years, and I'm 90 years old?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how close they were. I mean, they would call up on birthdays, and they never even said hello. They just started singing "Happy Birthday" to each other. They would call each other on the day of their birthdays and sing to them. I don't think they ever missed one. And when Len said the thing about the name Yogi, I think Joe called him Lordy a lot, which was what my grandmother used to call. His mother used to call him Lordy. She couldn't say Larry, so she would call him Lordy.
Mm.
Joe used it, but the Yogi term, my father used to send, whenever my father sent my mother flowers or a card, and he always signed it as Yogi Berra. And my mother used to tell us for years, "Yogi, I know who you are. You don't have to put Berra next to the name. I know who I'm getting from."
Larry, your daughter Lindsay did a tremendous documentary about your dad. It's one of the best I've ever seen, and I was really not aware of his service to our country in the war, and that he was on the D. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did he ever talk about that much?
He never talked about it. I knew he was in World War II, and I knew he was at Normandy, but that's about as far as he went. And he never really started talking about it until we saw the movie Saving Private Ryan. And that movie, the beach landings and everything, that part of the movie got him a little upset because he said that on the first day he was on the machine guns and he was strafing the beach. And people don't realize the boat that he was on was only 300 yards offshore, and the soldiers went past them. They were closer to the shore before the soldiers got there. The soldiers in those boats went past them, and they were firing their rockets off. His commanding officer told me he better keep his head down or it's going to get shot off. And he was lucky enough to make it, but when he saw the poor soldiers falling into the water, he started remembering the second day on June 7th. Their job was patrolling the getting the bodies out of the water, and he got really upset about that.
Larry, let's stay on the military service for a little bit.
Mhm.
Your father has a Purple Heart that he doesn't have.
Right.
I was, and it just shows the kind of person he was. First of all, I mean, you talk about when we spoke to you, you talked about your father took on a very dangerous assignment in the military because he was bored. I mean, he was bored. He gets injured. He doesn't get the Purple Heart because he didn't want to sign the paperwork because he didn't want his mom to be worried. Please expand on that.
He just didn't want. He got hit with a piece of shrapnel in the hand, and it was just I guess a flesh wound. But he didn't want his mother. Knowing his mother, if she got any inkling that anything was wrong, she would be very upset. And he didn't want that, so he didn't figure that it wasn't worth the effort to put that much stress on his mother.
Mm-hmm.
Larry, I'm going to ask you a question no one's ever asked you before. Oh. What was your dad's favorite Italian food?
His favorite Italian food was probably spaghetti and meatballs and meat ravioli. Meat ravioli.
Not lasagna.
I'm sorry?
Not lasagna.
No.
Was your mom a good Italian cook?
Yeah, she was okay. She was very good. She was whatever she tried to make, she made great. She made great American dishes too. I mean, she made great beef stew. My father liked risotto and polenta, and she would make that. She whatever he liked, she could do it. And what's amazing is her kids liked it too. We all loved her cooking. You know how you just get some people who say, nah, don't make that, Mom. But whatever she made, we liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Larry, your father passed away in September 2015. A couple of months later, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and you went to the White House to accept this medal. Could you tell us what it was like meeting President Obama and what that day was like?
Wow. Well, the how people felt about President. You liked him or you didn't like him, and I said, and naturally, when all your friends are, they're there because you're going to go meet the President of the United States, and I'm sitting there, and you're always thinking about it. But I went down with Lindsay first. My two brothers came down later. They said, "No, you're the oldest. You accept the medal." So I said, "Okay." I went down and we were entering the White House. We went through all the security, and then we get into the White House. And I started thinking. I said, I'm in the White House. In all the years, I'm a huge history buff, and I'd never been to the White House or the Capitol building where we were. And I said, I can't believe I'm in the United States of America, the White House, and I'm going to meet the President of the United States. And I just put it into my head. I don't care who the President of the United States is. I'm meeting the President of the United States. And he is giving my father the highest civilian medal yet. And I said, the guy could be the biggest bum, the greatest guy in the world. I don't care. And I went and I got it. One of the most amazing days of my life. And I've had quite a few of them representing Dad.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, Larry, you played ball as well, and it's living up to. I wanted you to really get introspective here, if I'm using the right word. But playing ball with Yogi Berra as your father, he didn't put pressure on you, but did you feel pressured because he was your father and knowing how great he was? Did you feel pressure to live up to that?
I honestly don't think so. I loved playing. I didn't even think I was going to be playing baseball. I played baseball. I did the little league. I did the intramural stuff and everything. But at the time, I was like from just 7 years till 13 or 14 years old. I was a bowler. My father owned a bowling alley, and I would bowl every day almost. And when I was 13 years old, I was averaging close to 200 already. So I thought I was going to be a professional bowler. And then I went to Ted Williams baseball camp, and I was up there for almost 2.5 months. And I started to think, man, this is fun. But I didn't have a position. I was playing first base, shoot thing, and first base, outfield a little bit, and catcher. And Ted Williams wrote my parents a letter, and that, boy, can this kid hit? The problem is we don't know where to play him. Like, we can't find a spot for him. So I just said, man, let me see what I could do with this. And then I got lucky. When I was in high school, my freshman year in high school, I got a call saying, the coach called and said, have you ever caught before? And I said, a little bit. I said, what happened to Mike? And he goes, well, he's got the measles. He can't catch. And he was a junior. And so he says, you're going to have to catch. And I said, I'll try. And I caught the game, and I caught every game since. I loved it so much, and turned my whole life around to be a ball player. And I played. I would go to bed early to play games, and I'd play as much as I could.
Larry, I'm a huge baseball card collector. I have every one of your dad's cards graded, ever made. Did you collect cards growing up? Did you collect your dad's card?
Well, we had them all. My brother Tim and I used to, we did all the flipping and all that, and I never put them in my bike though. But we had boxes of it. But my mom, when we moved from Tenafly, New Jersey, to Montclair, we had boxes of 55s, 56s, and she threw them away.
Oh,
And I'm talking about boxes of them now. And Tim and I always tell us to talk about Cy Berger, who was the head of Topps player, sign all the players and give out every year. He would come into the clubhouse and he would hand each player like 25, 50 of their own card. And most of the players would take 2 or 3 and throw the rest in the garbage. They wouldn't keep them. And like, imagine if we just reached into the garbage can and picked out all the Mickey Mantles that were in there and all the dads that we could have had. Who knows how many 55 Mantles or Roger Maris's or Whitey Fords, and it was something. But we had them, yes. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, finish up.
No, I was just going. But I always collected the cards. I didn't know that the teams yet, so I would divide them up. Teams that had C on the hat, or D on the hat, and B. I had Braves and Red Sox together. I had Cincinnati, Cleveland, Chicago all together. Then I learned how to break them out.
Take us inside the Yankee clubhouse when you were a kid and your dad was playing ball, and that must have been in a clubhouse with Mickey and Joe DiMaggio and Whitey Ford, Bob Scarron. That must have been unbelievable.
Sure, it was tremendous. We were, like I said, we were all like family. Back when we were growing up, and that like Saturday, the the Saturday day games were they were usually over, and usually Saturday night when they were home, anybody in the area would have a barbecue, and we with all the players that you could come by in Montclair or Woodcliff Lake, and you could have Mantle throwing a football to us, or somebody, you'd see guys that you love just being themselves, and that's how we grew up.
Larry,
I'm sorry,
sorry.
Len. Let me just
Go ahead,
ask you: did you understand Casey Stengel when he spoke?
I was probably a little too young, but he was a lot of fun to be with. Him and his wife couldn't have any kids. When we were in the clubhouse, we were allowed in the clubhouse. Kids were allowed in the clubhouse. Now it's kind of harder to get your kids into the clubhouse. But we'd have a lot of fun, and they would torment, they would get us into trouble. We had fun with them, because Frank Rossetti back then was in charge of the baseballs, and they were locked up. Every penny counted. So they would go in Frank's the cage over there and roll the balls all over the floor, or dump the bats out. And we would do that, and he would get so upset. They would get mad, and and then if we did something to a player, we would run into Casey's office. Now, we could go say hi to Casey as a young kid. Players had to have permission to enter his office. So we would go in there, and he would go, "You leave those kids alone. They're allowed in here. You're not." And we had a real good time.
Larry, your dad's career, your dad's life. I mean, when people approach you and they find out that you're Larry Berra's son, whether they saw him as a player, then he was a manager, whether it was for the Yankees, for the Mets, he was a spokesperson for products. Who definitely comes to mind. Of course, Aflac in later years comes to mind. So people didn't necessarily see him as a player and fall in love with him. There were different stages of his life. I mean, I never saw him play, unfortunately, but I remembered him first as Mets manager,
right?
And the Yoo-hoo, and I just thought, wow, he's managing my team. He's drinking my drink. I love the guy. Well, and then I found out who he was. So do you have that a lot, where people you never know how they came to know Yogi?
Right. Well, that was one of the big reasons we put out the documentary, was that we were trying to break the order, let people know that this man could play baseball. A lot of people had forgotten how good he was as a player. Did you see the documentary?
Oh, yeah. Loved it.
In the beginning, when it opens up, it shows the best living players and everything. Now, the players that they chose, that the fans chose, never saw Dad play.
Right.
It was done by the fans years later in 2000. So most of the fans never saw Dad play. We have nothing against the five guys. I love the five of those guys that are playing. I know every one of them.
And Lindsay said,
I could talk and everything.
Lindsay said, "Aren't you supposed to be there?" I mean, it's unbelievable he wasn't there.
I was watching that game with my father, and she just leaned over and said, "Are you dead?" And he goes, "I don't think so." But I get it all the time. People say, like I said, my age and over, they know that what a player he was. But then most of the other people come and say, "Your father is such a great guy, a great man," and it's and it's great that the people remember him and from his coaching with the Mets and the Yankees but then when I get somebody that sort of got to see him play, it's even better.
Larry, I think your dad was the greatest catcher in baseball history, and I'm a baseball historian. And when, I do research every day on players and positions, and the proof in that is your dad has how many World Series rings? Amazing.
10.
10. I mean, I
One
watched.
for every finger.
Yeah.
And I was also impressed. He was clearly the best bad ball hitter that I ever saw. I mean, he would swing at balls but make contact wherever they were in the zone. Amazing.
Right. Well, a lot of lucky enough one day I was sitting on an airplane coming back from Montreal, and I was sitting, and for some reason Pee Wee Reese was on and I was sitting next to Pee Wee Reese, and I was talking to him, and they go, when we played the Yankees, we didn't care about Mickey Mantle. We didn't care about the John. The guy we didn't want batting was your father, because we couldn't strike him out. He says, Mickey, we could strike out. Mickey was, Mickey could hurt you, but you could get him out. You could strike him out. He said, your father, we never knew what was going to happen. Didn't have a long time. So, and I said, really? And he goes, nope, just that we don't want him in a certain situations.
I remember a quote that Casey said, your dad played almost every game of the season, and it was 154 games. One year in 1954, he played 151 of 154 games. And Casey would say, well, Mr. Berra plays, Yankees win. I mean, that was just says it all. I mean, I'm looking at his baseball reference page now, and he got MVP votes from when he was 22 all the way until he was 36. So for 14, 15 years, he got MVP votes. All-Star, 18 times? This is unbelievable. And managed 2 World Series teams. I know 1973 went to Game 7. I'm not sure about 1964. If you can enlighten me on that one.
Game 7 too.
Game 7 too.
Yeah, lost to Gibson.
Well, if you're gonna lose a game, Gibson is one guy to lose to, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But that was one of his the only thing that we were trying to that he didn't have in the whole. He was in the World Series, but he never got to win the World Series.
Yeah, he took a team, the Mets of 1973,
Right.
to the World Series, and that's a heck of a managing job, because they were injured all throughout the year, and everybody was bunched up in September, and then the Mets just took off, got everybody healthy, and got to Game 7 of the World Series, and that was a heck of a pitching staff with Seaver and Kuzman and Matlack. That was just and McGraw was on that team. You gotta believe team, right? And that's when he said it ain't over till it's over.
Right, and that's it. And when you think about that pitching staff you just mentioned, when you think about that team, they only won 82 games.
Yeah.
When you think about it, I go, how do you win 82 games with that pitching staff?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Larry, I was really, the greatest World Series game of all time was Don Larson's perfect game. And Yogi authored that game. He caught it. He called the pitches. What did he have to say about that game? I always said, do you get nervous? And he goes, after the first pitch, he doesn't even know there's anybody in the stands. But he said that Don Larson never shook him off. He called every pitch. And I asked Dad, was that, did the pitchers do that most of the time? And he used to say, one of my favorite stories is that people ask me about all this, with this analytics stuff and with the way the pitchers. My father used to, when a new pitcher came to the Yankees, he would talk to them, and the pitcher would go, I like to do this, I like to do that, I like to do this. And my father would say, here, I play every game. Let me call the game. I've done pretty well so far. If I mess you up, we'll find out. But I think I know how to get you through this. So he was very rarely called off during the game or had the coach making calls for him. He did everything.
One of the most iconic photos. I mean, you could say there were other photos maybe as big, but at the end of the game, your dad jumping into Don Larson's arms. That who doesn't know that photo?
Yeah.
Number 8, jumping into Don Larson's arms. That's, that is one of the greatest photos of all time.
Yeah.
Another great photo is going through the museum, and your dad would talk to people going through the museum, and there's that photo of him and Jackie Robinson at the plate, and he would just stop what he's saying, say out, and just keep on saying, keep on talking.
Everybody would start going with you, and he would just go out. Let's go next.
When we inducted your dad into the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame, the plan all along was to induct him with Don Mattingly because Don thought so highly of your dad. And, with Don, it was tough to get him, schedule wise, because the season runs long and we have our event the week after it ends. But Don would tell me he was so fond of your dad and told me the best stories. And when he managed the Dodgers the one year, he wore number 8 in tribute to your dad.
Yeah, he I don't know. He's with Philadelphia now. I'm not sure what number he's wearing, but when he managed the Florida Marlins, he wore number 8 also.
Did you know Don?
Very well.
Yeah, that was a special night, and I know it meant a lot to Don. And it's one of the best nights we've ever had.
Yeah.
Larry, you mentioned before with the museum that your dad said, "Oh, I only thought people who were dead had museums," or something like that, right?
Right.
But when you were a kid, you wanted your father to be on a postage stamp, and that tell that story, because only deceased are on postage stamps. So tell that one.
I didn't know that. A guy, one of my teachers when I was in school, got me started on the stamp collecting, and I collected stamps. And then one day I just said, "How can my father get on a stamp?" And the teacher said, "Larry, you got a long way to go yet, because he has to pass away before he can be put on a stamp." And I didn't know that, but that's when I made that statement when we were having the stamp done at the museum. When the first day of issue. Yeah.
Larry, you as one of his children,
Mm-hmm.
they're still, like, he goes into the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame 2 years ago.
Right.
He gets his own postage stamp. The museum continues. It's getting bigger, better. His legacy just keeps growing. But you are tasked with being part of that legacy and making sure it continues.
Right.
What's that like to keep having these honors and these thrills that are for your father who you loved so much, and now you never know from day to day what new honor is going to be bestowed upon him.
Well, it's just like him. It's not so much the honors. I don't think we're so much concerned about the honors. We just don't want people to forget the kind of player he was. And that's our biggest thing, is that someday he could get lost in the shuffle, because I see a lot of people like 30, 40 years old, and when you say Yogi, the first thing they say is Yogi Berra, the cartoon. They don't realize there's a few, but it's the younger generation, the 30s and 35s, don't know, and I'll bet you that some of the the younger Yankee players, don't know what kind of player he was.
But isn't that gonna? I realize that's the case, and it's a shame. But I think that's the way it is with a lot of players. Unfortunately, that's it's a shame, because the history of the game is so incredible. That's why the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame, founded by Rennie, is so important, because it preserves the history, and with Rennie's museum, it honors the people that have been, have great careers, honors the people who are behind the scenes. But things like that to keep his legacy alive. But you're right, that is definitely happening, and it's hard to believe though that Yogi Berra would suffer the same fate as some of these other players and be forgotten. I hope that never happens.
Yeah, well, that's what I said with it. But Lindsay's done a great job
Mm-hmm.
in promoting Dad, and she does it as often as she can. She's on all those, Facebook and Instagram and all those things. She tries to answer everything, trying to fuddle some of the people. And if there's some things that bother her, she'll send it over to me, and I'll try and answer the question, or straighten some things out. But like I said, when I traveled a lot playing the senior ball, and I talk to a lot of people, and I really push, and I tell everybody, come to Jersey. I'll take you. Call me. I'll take you on a tour of the museum. I'll show you. I'll show you everything. There's a little bit there for everybody. It's just not Dad. It's the way he react, how his association with baseball and golf and everything else. I mean, his second love was golf. He loved to play golf, and he played. He played with like 5 or 6 different presidents. So, he's done just about everything.
Yeah.
Larry, one of your dad's teammates is still alive. His name is Bobby Shantz. He's a left-hand pitcher,
Yep.
and he had great years with the Yankees and pitching to your dad. And then, through a strange twist of fate, he ended up on the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1960. And the famous shot is Mazeroski homering, and your dad going back, he was playing left field, waiting for the ball to hit off the hedge, and it carried. And your father didn't expect it to carry.
Nope.
And Mazeroski just passed away last week.
Yep.
But Shantz is still alive. He's 100 years old.
Yep. Bobby played in Dad's golf tournament for years, and he always had nicest guy. And the one thing that amazed me, this man was like 80 years old, 82 years old. They had the cart for the golf bag, but he never took the cart. Somebody drove the cart. He ran to his ball.
Wow.
He'd hit a ball, 88, and he would run to the ball and wait for the guy to bring the cart to the ball.
Larry, there's been so many books written about your dad. We've had a couple of the authors on. John Pessa wrote a great book called Yogi, Life Behind the Mask. And one of my favorite books, though, is called Driving Mr. Yogi, about the relationship between Yogi and Ron Guidry. Could you talk about that relationship? Because that was a very special book, and I just loved that book.
Dad, when Dad went to the Yankees and set me a spring training after they made up, it was like 99. So he went to the 2000 spring training, and for some reason, the Dad and Ron hooked up, and it just they became very good. They basically the same thing. Ron was up early, always at the park early, and my father would get up early. They would they were at the park at 7:30 for crying out loud. They would get up 7. Dad would pick up, and it just was a continuing thing. And one of the reasons my mother would let my father go to spring training as often as he did as he got older was she knew Ron was there to be just in case, to help him out, because Ron would go to the store for him if he needed something and everything. And it's just the great. And I used to tease Ron. I told him, I said, don't think this is getting you into the will. And I played against Ron in the minor leagues, and so I knew him before. I knew him when he came up to the Yankees. I went over to say hello to him in 77, I think it was, or 78 when they brought him up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Larry, you sat on a very famous lap once.
Yeah.
Whose lap did you sit on when you were a very young child?
And I always said to my mother, my mother told me this, and there's no evidence. And I used to I said, Mom, are you sure? She says, yes, you did. And Marilyn Monroe's lap.
Wow.
I was like 3 or 4 years old. Joe had already retired, but he did bring Marilyn to spring training the one year. And I can't remember what year it was, because I'm just a kid. And that's just one of my things. So I always tell my teammates, I said, "You guys break my chops all the time. All I know is how many guys do you know sat on Marilyn Monroe's lap? I got hugged by Jane Mansfield, and I ate lunch with Sophia Loren." And
My opinion of you just went up tenfold.
You're my hero.
This changes everything, Larry. Changes everything.
we met Jane Mansfield. We were waiting, and we were in the Miami or Fort Lauderdale. I think it was the Miami airport, and she was there with her husband, Mickey Haggerty, and her little dog that she used to carry around. And my mother went over to say hello, and she said, "This is my, Larry." And she hugged me. So I got to meet some pretty famous people with Dad.
Yep.
Oh, to have pictures of those meetings.
What's funny is my mother wasn't a picture taker. We didn't take that many pictures at all.
Yeah, people didn't have obviously they didn't have the cameras on their phone like they do today. Otherwise, you would have had tons of pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even with the players, if I knew, that knowing all these people, back and hanging out with people that were famous, you never know. I would ask for an autograph if I knew that it was going to be like that. Never did.
Larry, it always looked like your dad's bat was huge. Was it? Do you know how big it was?
35, 34. 35 inches, 34 ounces.
Wow. Was he superstitious? Did he always want to use the same bat?
They just picked he used a couple, but that's the one he set his heart on. But it's funny to see how back in the day they used it. I'm sure they do it today. They would get the six bats, and they would look at the six that they, check out the spot. They would rub it with a Coke bottle. They would try to tighten up the seams on it when you see the grain on the bat. They would rub it with a Coke bottle to harden it up a little bit. And my biggest thrill one day was when I was at Ted Williams' baseball camp. They would get the bats sent in, and Ted Williams would take every bat. We would at these meetings at night. We'd have like the big, just sit arounds, and he would take all the bats, and he would take a hard ball. He'd take a ball, and he'd start tapping the bat all over, around, front, sideways. And when he was done, he would take a magic marker and he'd put an X right there. And he goes, "You hit the ball there, it's going out of the ballpark." He said, "That's the hardest part of the bat. There's a knot under there."
Wow.
He could tell. He said, "There's a knot under that spot."
Wow.
Larry, we really thank you for your time. I got one more question for you. Has
Sure.
to do with the Mets, because your dad had 2,148 hits with the Yankees, 2 with the Mets.
Yes.
And so he did play for the Mets. A lot of people don't know that he did play for the Mets for, I think, 3 or 4 games, something like that. And but tell us about his relationship with Joan Payson and the team in '73. And I know he was a coach even before that. In 68, 69?
He went there. He went there in '65.
65.
And got cool when he got fired by the Yankees in '64. He came home and played golf. And his whole thing was, you got to be. You get fired, you get fired. That was the nature of baseball. But I remember that day. I was playing soccer. Tim was playing football. And over the loudspeaker, it says, "Will Tim and Larry Berra please report to the headmaster's office?" And we're going, "Uh-oh, what's wrong now?" So we go. I met Tim in the lobby. We walk into the headmaster's office, and we're looking at him. And he looks like he's very sullen. And he goes, "I have some very bad news for you. We thought he died. We thought there's something happened." And he goes, "Your father was fired as the Yankee manager, and we wanted." And I guess I was 14 and Tim was like 12. But we wanted to beat the crap out of him. We thought we wanted to go. And then we said, "Oh, okay. Can we go back to where we were, play the soccer and football?" But it didn't. Then he got the call. He went over. He went with Casey. My mother was a little leery. She didn't know how she was gonna, and it turned out to be one of the greatest times of her life. She loved being a Met wife, and being with Mrs. Payson was terrific. She loved Mrs. Payson, and she loved everything about the Mets. And basically that was my, that's my. Dale grew up with the Mets, but I grew up with the Yankees through '64, so I'm 13 for it. But then I went over to the National League, and then I thank Jerry Grote. Jerry Grote made me, Dad was always, so I used to take infield with the Yankees, with the Mets before the games, and Jerry Grote would show me different things. He taught me a lot, Jerry, on how to catch.
Nice.
Because he could catch. He was one of the best catchers ever. He couldn't hit, but he could sure catch.
Larry, before we, I know we appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Before we wrap, if we were speaking to your dad today, and we asked him what, yeah, so many great things. Okay, the World Series, the perfect game, his role in the war, family, the museum, all of these great honors, the Hall of Fame. What do you think is the thing that he was most proud of in his lifetime?
Well, I'm hoping that it was his family, because I always say that his family would come first, because in the wintertime, he was offered. My mother always said I would have never had to work if my father wanted to make a lot of money in the winter, but he'd have to travel. People would want him to do things, but he would have to go here and go there. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to be home. My father, when we were growing up, saw Tim and I and Dale play every hockey, soccer, basketball, bowling, anything that we did in the winter. He was there. Very rarely was he gone unless he was with mom someplace. But he drove Dale to 3 o'clock hockey practices in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning hockey practice, and he would
Wow.
he would watch everything, and the basketball, and when we didn't have our own games, we saw everything you could possibly see in Madison Square Garden. We'd see boxing matches, hockey games with the rain in the old garden even. And then the newer garden, and then after that, he'd take Tim and I to dinner at Toots Shores. We'd go to Toots Shores and sit there and eat dinner with Jackie Gleason and Phil Silver, Frank Gifford, and all these guys. And I'm going, my mother would tell me all this later on. I'm going, are you kidding me? I mean, we used to do that, and she goes, yeah. But he would not travel. But then baseball was definitely his greatest love, and the Hall of Fame naturally. And I would think that the Presidential Medal Theater would have been up there, but the Hall of Fame is probably the top of the line.
I would suggest.
Larry, thanks so much for your time, and the fact that you sat on Marilyn Monroe's lap just is the most. I am so in awe of you now.
Every day, I just wish I had a picture of that. It's killing me that I don't have a picture of that.
Larry, thank you very much. Everybody should go check out the museum, the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center in Montclair State University. It's such a terrific place. And, please, Larry, thank you very much for your time.
Hey, anytime. I could do this, so I love doing this.
Thank you, Larry. We appreciate you joining us on the NYS Halls of Fame podcast. This has been a great episode. We are with our co-hosts, or all of us. It's Rennie LaRue, Jeff Cohen, Leonard Aberman. Before we close it out, does anybody who isn't Jeff, Rennie, or me have any questions for Larry Berra, the son of the great Yogi Berra? If you do, go ahead. You can ask. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up.
Did he really always sit in a cross-legged position to earn the nicknames?
Yes, he did. He did. He got the nickname playing Legion Ball because they didn't have dugouts back then, and he always sat with his legs crossed, and he always had his arms in front of him, crossed in front of him. So they thought then the guy said they had just seen the movie Gunga Din. I don't know if you've ever seen it. The yogi sits in there, and the guy said, "Look, he sits like that." So they started calling him Yogi.
Thank you for that. That was a great question. Anybody else?
I have something that I can show you, Larry. We've met at the Hall of Fame.
Hey, you look familiar.
Yes, Dave Burnett.
Yeah.
Have you seen this one?
Move it over.
Got to hold it correctly.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's the one that they just came out with.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But lots of questions, but I will definitely be down for a tour of the museum sometime this spring or summer. My friend comes up. My friend moved to Albuquerque. So,
oh, geez.
Yeah, he was in North Carolina, but now he's a little further away, so it's going to be harder to get him up here, but we will.
All right. Yeah, more than what?
Now, Dave, for those who are listening, we're here on a Zoom, but a lot of people will be getting this in audio format. Could you tell us what you just held up?
Oh, yes. It's the Yogi Berra Navy bobblehead. It came out on D-Day. Got to hold it correctly, though. Yeah. On June 6th of last year.
At Yankee Stadium. Yeah, the Yankees.
Stadium. Yeah. Is the glare too much? Is that a little better?
Yeah. That's all right. We see it, but that's just another way to honor the memory of the great man, Yogi Berra.
Yeah, I have a thing about leaving the bobbleheads in the box, unfortunately. So you
can always.
I could try to take it out. Go ahead.
Put it in the box again. Just don't lose the box.
Right. Yeah, because it's like, then how do you play with it? You don't even know if it bobbles. You gotta take it out and bobble it.
All right, I'm gonna do that to you guys. There we go. Oh wow. Let's see.
There he is.
Now, Larry, you don't have to stand in line to get one of those, right? The Yankees.
No. They were like very tough on how to get them.
Really?
Yeah, we went. We were lucky enough to get one for each person. That's about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Does that go now? Does something like that go in the museum?
I'm sure they got one over there. They may have a couple in there for sale.
I don't have one in my museum though. So
yeah,
if there's an extra one floating around, we'd love to have it.
Yeah.
Well, when I die, Rennie, I'm going to give this one to you. Okay.
So, Larry, what's your favorite dish? What do you like the most when you go out to restaurants?
If I told you wouldn't, I'm a cheeseburger guy, like, but if I'm gonna order something that I want, I'm into steak. I like steak, potatoes. I'm not fancy. I don't. I think it's crazy that I watch all these shows and I watch all these cooks, and they put all this stuff in here, and I'm going, just give me the food. Need all this. Dad basically was the same way. He was a big steak and potato guy, but he loved the sandwiches. He was big on the what's the name of that show that they used to have? They called it the sandwich that had everything on it back then. There was a TV show. The movies.
Oh, Dagwood. Dagwood.
Yeah. Dagwood. My mother he would
Blondie.
Salami, ham, prosciutto, mortadella, cheese, pickles, onions, everything. And it would be so high, and he would eat it. And he loved those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad. I could see him eating one of those, and I could see him being a representative for some place that has it,
Yep, and he was our barbecue. Every holiday, he was very big, very huge family man, because we were always very, our family always stayed very close. So on Easter, when he was home, Easter, 4th of July, he would barbecue, and he would be the only one that would barbecue. He was the cook, and then the kids, we'd do the grandkids as they got, we got married and the grandkids started coming. But that was his thing. The family was very king with him.
Terrific.
That's wonderful. Larry, thank you so much for being on baseball. Thank you for being so much on New York State's Hall of Fame podcast. We really appreciate it. And, all the best to you and the family.
No problem. Anytime.
Take care, Larry.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Sorry
you,
I was
Larry.
late, everybody.
Thank you.